Hey guys, I'm Nick and I'm coming to you again with another hotel room review. I've just watched the latest Star Trek Strange New Worlds episode entitled Spock Amok episode 5. We're halfway through the season at this point. Geez, this show seems to be flying along. I can't believe we're already halfway through season 1. And this was our kind of comedy episode this week. It was our Freaky Friday episode where Spock and T'Pring swapped bodies. We had the crew off for shore leave. We had all sorts of hijinks going on between the crew, and we also had to try to schmooze a new race, the Rongovians, into the Federation. We haven't seen these guys before, but they're obviously, you know, somewhere between Romulan and Klingon space. They're a small little race there, but they want to join as well, or they're considering joining as well. So we had kind of a lot of different irons in the fire this episode. I think there was a good amount of humour. It was an interesting episode, and let's talk more about what episode 5 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds had to offer. Guys, if you haven't subscribed to Sci-Finatics yet, please don't be scared to do so. Click on that big red button to stay up to date and current with all the latest Star Trek news on YouTube. So for starters in this episode, we had the Vulcan Arena scene. It was started off with that dream sequence between Spock and himself, where he had to kind of fight himself in the Vulcan Arena. And this was a complete homage to the old Amok Time episode from original series. We had the Vulcan gongs, we had the jingly bells things, we had the Caliphate, the weapons they were using in the fight, and most importantly, we had the arena battle theme from original series. That's what made this little dream sequence shine, I think. It was just having that theme music of the arena fight that we all know so well from original series, just to have the nice cherry on top for this dream sequence with Spock in conflict with himself. And it seems after our last episode with them getting their butts kicked by the Gorn, we've gone back to Starbase 1 to do a bit of repairs, polish off all those phaser burn marks and everything. And we've got the crew, some going for shore leave. We've got Chapel and Ortegas, down the planet, doing some stuff down there. We've got Lan and Number One doing a little bit of investigation about crew activities, particularly the lower deckers that seem to have a Enterprise bingo situation going on where they have to tick off all number of kind of adventurous tasks on board the ship to kind of fulfill some kind of hazing, I guess. It was good to see Starbase 1 again. This Starbase 1 is huge. I don't think we've ever seen a starbase quite so enormous in the sense that it's got all these different habitats. You've got the main docking station where all the ships are docked, but you've also got ginormous landscapes, which Pike talked about one time before, about how there's essentially a forest and there's a lake and Benga's going fishing and we've got crew members doing all sorts of Tai Chi and meditation stuff. This starbase is huge. We've never really seen a starbase that's quite had this much going on with it before. Another nice addition to this episode was Pike in his green captain's jacket. Now we saw Kirk wear the captain's jacket many times before on original series, and it's great that they've actually brought this costume element across to Strange New Worlds with the crossover front and the little sort of belt buckle thing in the form of a Starfleet emblem and everything as well. I thought that was a nice tie-in. And amidst Spock and T'Pring having a bit of a reunion, picking up where they left off when they were interrupted in episode 1. We have a diplomatic mission to achieve as well in this episode, where we get to see the zebra-faced Rongovians. We haven't seen the Rongovians before. This is a brand new race, but apparently they exist somewhere in between Klingon and Romulan space, and they're just a little tiny planet, a little tiny world. They've got warp travel, but it's in the old style solar sailor ships, like we saw Cisco and Jake and everything going for a bit of a spin on in DS9. It's that old style of warp travel. I like the tone of this episode. We had so much, there's a lot of levity in the interactions in this episode, which was really good. We had the Number One and Lan finding out about this, Enterprise bingo. We've got, Number One being given this sort of nickname by the crew about where fun goes to die, which he's not too happy about. So they kind of set out on this kind of, lower deckers style mission to tick off all the various different things on the Enterprise bingo list, from chewing gum whilst being transported to shooting each other with phasers on stun setting, walking on the hull, signing your name on an old piece of deck plating. It's kind of very, university kind of frat party, kind of, not hazing, but, just, an initiation kind of stuff that obviously the lower ranked officers get up to these sorts of things in their spare time. Obviously we see a bit of conflict going on between Spock and T'Pring in terms of their relationship. Spock's, far too invested in work, and T'Pring just wants a bit of one-on-one time with hubby to be, and Spock's sort of got himself too involved in work issues, and this results in this kind of, I guess, wanting to share souls and understand each other more, which then therefore results in our Freaky Friday style body swap that goes on between these two. Tonally, I think this episode was really, really good. I think it reminded me a lot of the episode, I think it was Rascals in Next Generation, where Guinan and Picard and, I think it was Ensign Rowe, all got, mucked up in the transporter or something, and they basically got made young again. So they all ended up as like 10-year-olds and so forth. So there was a bit of whimsy in this episode that went back to those sorts of style episodes, humorous style episodes, but also the episodes where your characters kind of have a bit of out-of-body experience. We got to see Chapel on a date with another crew member that she sort of has a bit of a casual relationship with. We got to see an ensign, young ensign, a female Bolian ensign. I think we've only seen, I can only remember seeing male Bolians before. Obviously most renowned, the barber on the Enterprise D, Mr. Mott, was a Bolian. We've seen a few other Bolians over the years in, Voyager and DS9 and so forth, but I can't recall seeing any female Bolians. So this, I think, shows our first female Bolian in a Star Trek episode as far as I can remember. I think all the negotiations with the Rongovians, we had Pike trying to negotiate, we had Spock trying to negotiate. I think there have been a lot of Star Trek episodes where we've seen, unusual Star Trek races behaving, not as we would perhaps expect them to behave in negotiations. Obviously, Tellarites are very aggressive and angry and kind of like to have a bit of verbal sparring going on. Everybody does their own thing a little bit differently, and I guess the Rongovians have their own little spin on things as well. It was a very relationship-driven episode, this one. I think we obviously were, had Chapel and Ortegas talking about relationships, Chapel trying to have a date, Spock trying to have a date with T'Pring. We've got the body swap going on. We explore more about the the friendship between Lan and Number One. We had some good character interactions in this episode where the characters all kind of gave us a little bit more of an insight into what makes them tick. I thought the Freaky Friday body swap between Spock and T'Pring was interesting, although it probably could have been played up a bit more. I think even there was a few moments there, where they were trying to, hide things from Pike and everything, and there was a few humorous lines, such as Pike saying "get out of town," and then Spock or T'Pring in Spock's body saying we're not in a town and things like that. I think there could have been a little they could have played up that humor a bit more. There were some nice moments in there, but yeah, I think there was some big comedy moments that you probably could have mined a little bit in greater depth. Obviously, we had Spock in T'Pring's body punching out the Vulcan guy that was meant to be being rehabilitated because he rejected logic and so forth, who ended up getting punched in the face because Spock wasn't happy with him bad-mouthing him all the time. They probably could have dipped into the comedy pot a little bit more with this body swap thing going on. I think the way they got their souls to swap back, or their cartridges or whatever to swap back into the correct bodies again, with Mbenga smearing some sort of sea urchin paste on their forehead and then sticking some crystals in them. It's sort of, I think it's one of those solutions that you just don't want to think about it too much, because it's just like, what's this nonsense he's doing? Like it sort of didn't seem to make a huge amount of scientific sense, but I think it's one of those things where you just got to suspend your disbelief and say, yeah, okay, it's a science fiction solution. It doesn't really make all that much sense, but we're just going to go with it for the sake of the narrative. There were some good character moments between Spock and T'Pring, and also Spock and Chapel at the end of this episode, where we talked a bit more about those relationship dynamics and everything, and obviously we got Pike convincing the Rongovians to join the Federation, even though he just basically completely badmouthed the Federation. He almost went down the road of the co-op Melita. He gave them the spiel of absolute candor, didn't sugarcoat it at all, talked about all of the possible pros and cons, you know, without, you know, trying to put the whole sales spin on it. And they appreciated that aspect. They appreciated his candor in his sales pitch, and it worked because at the end they ended up joining the Federation, it would seem. The scene at the end with Lana and Chapel signing this bits of deck plating on top of the Enterprise, I'm not quite sure how they were walking on the hull without any kind of EV suits. In all years of Star Trek, whenever anybody's had to do a walk on the hull, it has to be in an EV suit. So I'm not quite sure how they were doing this. Obviously they were touching the force field and stuff, but it's like, hang on, whenever you walk on the hull of a ship, you need an EV suit. I've never seen, you know, an oxygen bubble created within the shields of the starship or whatever to any great degree before. So that kind of surprised me a little bit that these guys didn't put the EV suits on to do this little walk on the hull routine. But it was cute to see them sign the hull, as many people had signed the hull before, on this one section of deck plating that's apparently never been replaced. And again, a great moment when the Rongovians joined the Federation, flew the flag as they sail off in their solar sailor ship. And at the end, our little chat between Ortegas and, you know, Chapel, there was a little bit of, I guess a hint at the unrequited love, or the little, you know, maybe spark that Chapel feels for Spock, that obviously, you know, ran all the way through original series, where there was a little bit of a flame that Chapel held for Spock, and you can kind of see that that aspect coming through in this episode. Guys, I really enjoyed this episode. I think it was great to have a comedy, or a, you know, not necessarily comedy, but certainly an episode with a lot more levity in it this time around. We obviously had a very serious submarine warfare episode last week. We got the somewhat more whimsical episode this week. I think they're doing a good job of giving us different Star Trek episodes in Strange New Worlds that, you know, cover different bases, tick different boxes. I think that was the great thing about original series and Next Generation, where we would get episodes that were different every week, you know, different tonally flavoured episodes every week. There'd be different types of goings on. And I think they're doing a good job of that on Strange New Worlds. Guys, please, if you're able to, leave a super thanks. It really helps the channel out, much appreciated. And also, you know, leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you thought about this episode of Strange New Worlds, episode 5, Spock Amok. Guys, as always, please check out my merch in the merch store. We can pick up cool Star Trek t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, caps, you name it. It's all there. There's always a sale going on, and you pick yourself up a great bargain there to help support the channel as well. I'll be back again very soon with my next video review. I will catch you guys soon.